And what is going on, everybody? UCF Jaguar here with another live stream, man. And this is a live stream I never thought I would have made in January. A lot of people warned us about this whole thing, but here we are, Urban Meyer, officially one and done. Not even one and done, like 3/4 and done. He couldn't even finish a whole entire year before getting axed by the Jaguars and Shad Khan and company. Shout out to everybody in the chat, man. DJ M, what's up, man? Wolf Moon, Cody, what's going on, everybody? So I do have a guest with me today. I have Generation Jaguars, Jordan DeLugo. Jordan, what's going on, man?
You know what's going on. How you doing, buddy?
Dude, I'm good, man. I'm good, man. Here we are. The Jaguars back in the head coaching search. Urban Meyer, what a absolute bust of a coach this guy was. At the end of the day, man, Urban Meyer to me was just a con man. You know, he went in there and completely duped Shad Khan, told him all this different stuff that he was going to do, and he came in here and it's like he wasn't even trying. He was not the same guy he was at Florida, it seemed like, just from a preparation standpoint and a giving a crap about the football team standpoint. Not the same guy at Ohio State. He came in here and he looked clueless. He looked like he did not care to get this thing right. I don't even know. It's weird. What are your overall impressions, I guess, of just the whole Urban Meyer deal out here in Jacksonville?
Well, yeah, I think he admitted as much in terms of not being the micromanager, the guy that's going to be like super wound up about every single little thing. Um, he admitted that a couple weeks ago in terms of he decided, I believe in his last couple years at Ohio State, he wasn't going to be that guy anymore. Unfortunately for Shad Khan, the Jaguars, and all the Jaguars fans out there, you need to be that guy in the NFL to an extent. I'm not saying you have to be the level of extreme that he was early in his college days, but you certainly got to do a lot more than Urban was doing while he was here.
Yeah, and it's I don't know, man. It was just weird from the start. I mean, I know me personally, I liked the hiring. I was like, okay, we went out there and we got a guy. And all I know is that the guy that we brought in was, like I said, he just didn't seem like the same guy that he was at Florida and stuff like that. And he came in here and just from the start, it was all just bad. It was all just really bad from whether it be building up the coaching staff with like, he was brought in like Chris Doyle and then into kind of free agency where it didn't really seem like he knew what the free agency process was. Kind of bringing in Tim Tebow and then just a whole bunch of stuff. Obviously the whole entire bar situation out there in, in not Nashville, but in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
It's just one thing after another. And like, there's a whole list of stuff that he did, all these missteps. And, when it comes to his media appearances, it's like he either did not know the answer to the questions or he would just straight up lie. You looked at him on the sidelines, and I see other head coaches out there. I see, guys like Sean McVay extremely active on the sidelines, all these other head coaches, but Urban Meyer, it's like he's not doing anything. His arms are crossed or his hands are on his knees. Oh God, it was sickening. It was absolutely sickening. And this, like, I could not watch Urban Meyer's press conferences. I relied on guys like you to
Yeah.
let me know what was going on because I might not be the most positive guy around the Jaguars, but one thing about me is that, like, I do like to always find where there can be hope. You know what I mean? I like to kind of find those things and say, if we could do this, then we'll be good. But the guy that was the leader of this team, I could not rally behind, and I just did not see anything positive from him or any senses of hope coming out of him. It was just, we got duped big time.
Yeah, 100%. He sold a bill of goods in terms of, the level of intensity he was going to have in terms of the work ethic he was going to have, and certainly in terms of the leader. Like the leader wasn't there. He didn't respect his players. He didn't respect his coaching staff. He didn't respect people in the building. I don't think he respected the media by lying uh, on multiple occasions. I just don't think the respect was there. And if there's no respect, especially for your coaching staff and your players, you've got no chance in the NFL.
Yeah. And shout out to B No the $10 donation. Lambo is the GOAT. Thank you. And that's like this whole Lambo thing, that has to be the most like it seems like this is a plot of like an HBO show or something like that. A player gets cut and then like 3 months later comes back and was the ultimate straw that broke the camel's back when it comes to Urban Meyer in Jacksonville. And he pretty much, I mean, I think the decision on Urban Meyer was probably decided well before the Lambo stuff came out. But once that kind of became public, similar to what they had to do with Tom Coughlin a few years ago, they had to do it to save face. And man, Lambo, of all people, comes back and ultimately gives, no pun intended, but Urban Meyer the kick out of Jacksonville, man. Like, what a story. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. And the thing about it is the Jaguars knew about it already. They knew about the claim. It's the fact that it became public knowledge that made them react. It's a crazy thing because, like, they could have been a proactive organization. They've been failing to do that for a long time. They could get ahead of these stories if they wanted to, but they just keep opting to not do that. And they could have come out and laid down the law, made themselves look good by getting ahead of the story. They decided not to do that, and now they're reacting. And ultimately, what needed to happen did happen, in my opinion, which is, canning Urban Meyer. But they could have done it in a much better way, a way that would shed a better light on them as an organization. Because now you have to ask, they knew about this. Why wasn't anything done um, prior to it becoming public knowledge?
Yeah. So this whole Urban Meyer thing, man, it's obviously in the past, but now comes like a bit of fun stuff, man. Now comes actually being able to look out, for upcoming head coaches, man. Quick shout out to Jaguars United with a $5 donation. Rumor has it Josh Lambo still hangs out in the dog park. I think they shut down the dog park, didn't they? I don't know. I haven't heard any dogs up there in a
I,
while in that stadium.
I'm not sure. I've never been invited. I think that's for players only.
Yeah, but I've looked up there and I haven't seen it. But
Yeah,
yeah, it's yeah, shout out to Josh Lambo. That's an incredible story. But now like we're in a situation, man, where now we get to look for a new head coach. And I don't know if it's because of recency bias with like I'm in a situation where it seems like every head coach candidate, I'm like, that guy sounds awesome because we just had Urban Meyer. Or like, is it if it really is like a great kind of year for to really hire on a head coach? Because you have guys out there, whether you want to kind of dip your hands back into kind of the retread area. There's some successful guys out there. I know you were kind of lobbying for Jim Caldwell earlier today. There's also Doug Peterson, who's a Super Bowl winning coach, and he had his flame out. Or there's also kind of the new guys, the up and comers. There's the guys like Byron Leftwich is a popular name, or even Kellen Moore. And you guys can weigh in on this. I actually do have a poll up there pinned in the top of the chat. 102 votes so far about what head coach would you rather have? An up and comer kind of guy, a first time head coach, or a retread. 74% of you guys would prefer an up and comer. Obviously, that's the exciting thing because the bad thing about retreads is they've all been fired, so they've kind of been exposed in a way about what their potential downfalls are. But at the same time, you kind of know what you're getting a little bit more as opposed to kind of going after a first year guy. So let me know. I guess you can start this thing off. I mean, what are your
yeah.
overall thoughts about the coaching pool coming into next season?
Yeah, so I think before you talk about a retread or up and comer, this guy, that guy, you need to establish what you want as an organization from your coach. And if I'm Shad Khan, I've kind of put together a list of things I need if I'm making this hire. First of all, leadership. Urban Meyer absolutely did not possess the type of leadership you need in the NFL. This is a guy that was pretty much just trying to, you know, uh, act like he's the only one in the room. He's the only winner. Everyone else there is losers. He's not respecting his players, and it starts with that. You have to respect your players and coaches. Um, you have to be consistent in your daily approach. You have to be the same person that comes into the building every day. Um, you have to be accountable. If you want to hold other people accountable, you need to be accountable yourself. Obviously, Urban Meyer wasn't that. You need a guy that is going to lead by example, and you need a guy that is going to go to bat for his players, not just like I know Urban Meyer seemingly did that early in the season, but obviously behind closed doors, that wasn't the real thing that was going on in those meeting rooms. You need a real leader. Urban Meyer was not that. And you need a guy that can identify with the players, establish trust, and grow the young talent. So all those things are imperative, in my opinion. I'm also thinking for this particular situation and just in general, I want my head coach to be an offensive mind. There's a few reasons for that. A, Trevor Lawrence is priority number one. His development, uh, the more you get out of Trevor, the further this organization is going to go. B, if you hire a great defensive coach or a CEO coach, as soon as you have some success, his offensive coordinator is out the door. He's going to be a head coach somewhere, and then you're going to be stuck trying to find a new guy to run your offense or having to promote from within, figure it out, whatever. And if your offensive coordinator gets hired to be a head coach, he's going to probably try to poach one of the guys that's already was on his staff with you to be on his staff. So I just think you want to have that offensive mind for the stability. Um, and you need a guy that comes in and interviews well. Clear and precise vision for Trevor Lawrence, for his staff, for the organization as a whole. Um, Urban Meyer didn't have that. He wasn't planning on hiring Darrell Bevel when he first got hired to be the Jaguars head coach. He wowed him in his interview, and so this was a guy that didn't even know what he planned to do on offense.
I don't even think
And
he
then
knew who his
finally,
GM wanted to be.
exactly, there was no real vision. I mean, he
He just
sold a
kind of
bill
came
of
in, he
goods.
talked to Trent, he's like, "Okay, you're cool. Yeah, we can do this." You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah,
I
he
didn't mean
sold
to
a bill
cut you
of
off, but
goods
it's
that he had
crazy.
a vision, but he
Yeah.
didn't. And then obviously, I'm treating Trevor Lawrence like an NBA superstar at this point. Everything you do has to have the Trevor seal of approval on it.
Yeah. I agree 100%, man, because obviously you want to kind of bring in the offensive minded guy because hey, you have, this isn't the 2013 Jaguars where your quarterback room is Blaine Gabbert, Chad Henne. I mean, right now, like the move that you want to make it, with the thought of Trevor Lawrence. And yeah, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say like, Trevor Lawrence should be involved in the interviews and all this kind of different kind of stuff, but you want to at the very least get him someone involved to make him feel like he really is an important piece of this offense. Like, before you make the head coaching decision, you want them to talk to Trevor Lawrence. You want kind of Trevor Lawrence's input, not that Trevor Lawrence should control the decision, but at the very least, like, we've seen situations like over in, Houston where, they did not let him, pretty much be involved at all. And it kind of makes them feel like crap. And they really are, kind of big pieces to the whole puzzle. And yeah, like like at this point, you need to bring in a guy that you need to bring in a guy that, like you said, they have a vision, but also someone that people will like. You know what I mean?
Yes,
Like,
he has
because
to be able to connect with everyone in the building, and that's the respect thing.
absolutely. Because now this isn't, people say, oh, well, Jimmy Johnson did this, Tom Coughlin did that. Dude, we're in the 2020s now, man. Like it's no longer a military type of system.
Mm-mm.
This is now like, it's a whole different NFL now. You know what I mean? Players really demand respect. I mean, they're millionaires, they're 30-year-old men. I mean, I can agree with that, man. And
Yeah, and they have a voice now.
exactly.
They
They
didn't
have
have
a
that
voice.
voice in the '90s and in the '80s. It just
Yeah,
wasn't there.
with the power of even social media and just how easy it is to connect with people, stuff gets out, man.
Hmm.
It's a whole different game. So that's a big thing that you need. Let me get to a couple super chats. David Bryan with the $5 donation. Should we sign Josh Lambo back to the Jaguars? Hey, I mean, sometimes you need two kickers and when you have a 90-man roster. So, we'll see. We'll see what Matthew Wright continues to do. But yeah, Lambo's making his return to Jacksonville. People want him back.
I mean, Wright is pretty clearly not the answer
Yeah,
long term. If you want, I wouldn't be mad if they brought back Lambo just to kick the tires, see what's
yeah,
going on there. But I think they probably need to try to get either a veteran from somewhere else or a rookie
yeah.
and try to develop them.
I agree with you. Reese with a $5 donation. He has a good question. Sir, are we keeping Balky as GM? I don't know how much control he had, but this roster is terrible, and that's got to fall on the GM most of the time. I'll let you address that one first.
Yeah, I would think that they're not going to. Recent history shows that Shad Khan kind of hasn't done the clean sweep. He hasn't fired everyone in the organization since 2013 when he fired Malarkey and Gene Smith. So that is concerning, but he doesn't seem to be making the same mistakes over and over again. He's making new mistakes. I do think he's going to get rid of Trent Baalke.
Yeah,
I just think he realizes that there was a lot going wrong here. I don't think Urban Meyer was the only issue. I do think he was obviously the biggest issue. But yeah, Trent Baalke's player acquisition, he was part of the 2020 draft. Um, he was a major part of the 2021 draft. And you can look back at his resume in San Francisco in terms of drafting, in terms of picking head coaches. It's littered with a bunch of misses. I don't think there's any way that he's brought back for 2022.
yeah, I agree 100%. Honestly, like Trent Baalke isn't even like a Shad Khan guy. I mean, I think he was kind of brought in more so by Dave Caldwell. And then once Dave was fired, then all of a sudden he got promoted to, on an interim basis. And then like Urban Meyer could have controlled the GM spot. I mean, it was his decision probably on what he wanted to do. I mean, I don't know, I mean, I think at the end of the day, if Urban Meyer did not want him, he would not be in the building. But obviously, Urban Meyer did
Absolutely.
not come in with a plan. So I was like, oh, this guy's cool. I could have a beer with him. Yeah, let's bring him in. And obviously, like, I think a lot of this was kind of driven by him, but the Trent Baalke has a past, and I think we're going to go with the approach that we're going to get a head coach, and then head coach is going to decide that kind of thing. But I don't see
Yeah.
Baalke as being here.
Khan did talk about last year wanting that coach centric um, organization. And now maybe because Urban Meyer totally screwed him over, he might change his tune on that. But at least the last thing we've heard in that regard from Shad Khan is that he wants the coach centric organization.
Yeah. So shout out to Tech is my world. How are both of you feeling about Jim Harbaugh possibly? I'll get through this quickly because I don't think he's going to be on the list of candidates. I think he's kind of locked in at Michigan, and I'm not hearing his name kind of out there. What are your thoughts about that?
I don't know if he's locked in at Michigan if a team comes knocking in the NFL, but this is a guy that has a long history of not always getting along with everyone, of kind of grinding on people. No pun intended with Urban Meyer there, but just kind of getting on people's nerves, really getting under your skin. I don't think that's the type of energy you want in Jacksonville right now, personally.
Yeah. So now I kind of wanted to get into some of these head coaching candidates, and shout out to everybody in here. 155 people tuned in listening here right now. I'm here with Jordan DeLugo. You can find him on Twitter at Jordan DeLugo. I have all his links down below, as well as all his links to Generation Jaguar, where all of his articles and podcasts and everything are posted to. So all that is down in the description down below. But there's a whole list of candidates. Whether, like I mentioned earlier, retreads like Jim Caldwell or Doug Peterson, who's had success in a league. Also, new guys like Byron Leftwich or Kellen Moore. Those are kind of, even Dable or some of the hot guys. I know myself, like, I don't know. I'm really, really torn here because there really are a bunch of good candidates. But I did like one guy that really sticks out to me really is Doug Peterson. I do like Doug Peterson a lot, and even Mike Kay, a guy that Mike Kay, right?
Yeah,
He
Mike.
used to, yeah, he he was on the Jaguars media for a little bit. Now he's up in Philadelphia.
Hmm.
You know, he's the guy that knows a lot about Jacksonville, a lot about Philadelphia. He endorsed, you know, Doug Peterson as a potentially great hire. He's a guy that obviously he won a Super Bowl over there under
Right.
with Nick Foles as the quarterback. So he was able to win a Super Bowl after a big coaching change, and that's not something that's hard. That's easy to come by, man. I mean, Andy Reid couldn't do it when he was over there, and
Right.
he came in there and did it relatively quickly. You know, he's had a couple of playoff runs in there. I think he's 4-2 in the playoffs, and you know, he's a guy that, I mean, Super Bowl champion. Obviously, some things fell apart with him over there. But one thing I did read is that I had the impression before I did some research that he wasn't really a player's coach, that maybe he was rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. But actually, a lot of players do like him. He actually is known as more of a player's coach. He's just, you know, when I see him on the sidelines, he's really into it, man. He's all over the place. He has his play sheet. I mean, he is heavily involved. It's a night and day compared to Urban Meyer. His whole downfall over there was that, I hate to say this word, but he was being micromanaged a little bit, you know, by whether it be the GM or the owner. I mean, he was a guy that he wanted to promote the passing game coordinator to the offensive coordinator, and they blocked him from doing that. And then he got out of there. He's like, I think it was a handshake fire kind of thing, where he said, "Look, I'm tired of being told what to do." You know what I
Hmm.
mean? And obviously, when you're head coach, that's your team. When you're a head coach, you want reins to do what you want, especially in your coaching staff. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that's a big thing with that. I guess what are your we'll stick on, I guess, Peterson for a little
Yeah.
bit. What are your impressions of him?
Yeah, you said it. 4-2 in the postseason. Even the final time they made the postseason in 2019 with him, they really weren't a great team at that point, and he had them fighting. They were in a close game that they couldn't quite beat. I can't remember if it was the Bears or Saints. I can't remember,
I
but
think the Bears double doink was against them, right?
I can't remember, but the point is, very good record with the Eagles overall. 16 was his first year. They went 7-9. After that, 13-3, 9-7, 9-7. Then the wheels kind of start falling off with Carson Wentz isn't playing well. He's having kind of, you know, I don't know the proper word for it. Maybe confidence issues, and they go 4-11-1 in that final year. And like you said, there was some drama that went down. He was kind of trying to be loyal to his guy, promote his guy to offensive coordinator. GM ownership, they weren't about it, and so they parted ways. Yeah, I think he's a very good candidate. He's an offensive guy. He's a guy that knows how to work with young quarterbacks. Um, he absolutely deserves an interview. Thumbs up for Doug Peterson.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's one. And I'm having some people kind of debating here about whether you hire the GM first or whether you hire the head coach first. I know me personally, I would go after the head coach. I mean, that's just me. Get that guy in there, then you can see eye to eye on what, you know, where you want to move when it comes to, you know, just the GM role.
Hmm.
But I don't know. What's your take on that?
Well, whatever you do, it needs to be two guys that are aligned. And obviously, Urban and Trent talked about alignment a lot, but they weren't actually aligned when it came down to certain things. And that's just the way it went with Urban. No one was really aligned with him. But yeah, I think whatever you do, whether you want to do the coach centric model, whether you want to get the GM and then you and the GM work together to find the coach, um, however you want to do it, they just have to have the same vision. And I know that's like a buzzword, but it's so crucial. If you do not have guys that are on the same page, there's zero chance for it working out. And you saw that here in Jacksonville.
Yeah. So I guess I know a lot of people are kind of asking different candidates. We're gonna go through them all. So just I guess be patient for your guy. And hey, if you have to go, what I'll do, I'll leave down in the pinned comment kind of the timestamp for where we talk about these different guys. If you want to watch later, if you have something to do, you know, it's 9:30. I don't know what your guys' schedules are, but next I guess we'll go into your top candidate. What's your top guy? And let me know a little bit why.
Yeah, so I'm a huge fan of Jim Caldwell, and again, I'm not the type of guy that's going to sit here and say this It needs to be this guy. It needs to be this guy. Interviews
Yeah.
matter. The plan that they come to Shad Khan with or to the GM with, however it may go, that matters. So, you know, I'm not going to be there for those interviews, obviously. So I won't be able to give my 100% honest evaluation because I won't have all the tools to do that. But from my position where I am right now, I love Jim Caldwell. I always have liked Jim Caldwell. This is a guy that in Indy had great success. The only year he struggled there was the year Peyton Manning got hurt. Then he got canned, of course, and he ended up moving on to Detroit, where he took them to the playoffs twice. He had a winning record with the Lions 3 out of 4 years, and the only year he didn't have a winning record, he was 7-9. This is in Detroit. The guy had a winning record. I love that. If you can take a poverty franchise like the Detroit Lions, get them to be respectable, what can you do with Trevor Lawrence, $70 million in cap space, all the great stuff that Jacksonville has potential wise? I know he's 66. I know he did have some health issues a couple years back. The last thing we've heard from him was August 2020. He had lost a lot of weight, healthy weight. He was doing it. He was dieting, trying to eat better, and he basically said that it was something health wise that he was able to correct just based off living a healthier lifestyle. And since then, we haven't heard any negative reports about health. So as long as he is currently healthy, I'm not too concerned with that. Obviously, that's something you have to vet and figure out. But he is revered by everyone who's ever played with him or in terms of coaching with him, people that have played for him. They just love the guy. He's very nice, very mild mannered. He's able to motivate in his own specific way, which isn't like a lot of NFL coaches. He's a Tony Dungy disciple, so everybody knows Tony Dungy very well. I'm assuming he's kind of like Tony Dungy, a lot like that. And he's an offensive guy though instead of a defensive guy. Dungy was a big defensive guy. Um, Jim Caldwell is an offensive mind. I think he would work very well with Trevor Lawrence. I think he would be a guy that's well liked throughout the locker room, coaching staff, everyone in the building, and he's a winner. He's a guy that's done it in multiple places, winning record, both stops he had. I just think when you look at the total package for what I'm looking for, which is the offensive mind, a guy that is going to be able to get along with everyone else in the building, and a guy that's a proven winner, Jim Caldwell is a great candidate. And he at least deserves an interview if he's interested in getting back into coaching.
Yeah, and with Jim Caldwell, that when you hear the name, it doesn't strike you as, oh man, that's an awesome hire. I mean, he's not a guy that you're gonna put on a T-shirt, and obviously he's not the big splash hire, but he definitely has a solid resume. When it comes to the health problems, the situation where it's like, you hear stuff out of the NFL Combine where someone has a heart condition. It's like, okay, like I don't know what that means. I'll let other people kind of figure that one out. So when it comes to his health issues, that's kind of that. But yeah, I mean, he has a super solid track record. Obviously, we're in a situation right now where it's like, and we're going to talk about some of the new up and coming guys, but there's a lot of work to be done in Jacksonville. You know what I mean? When it comes to fixing a culture that has never been built, it's broken, it's bad, it's toxic. Right now, at least with Urban Meyer in there, it's not a good place right now. So you look at a situation where what if Pete Carroll decides to shake hands and move on from Seattle. You would think a guy like Byron Leftwich or Kellen Moore would be a lot more fit to go into there, and a situation with the Jaguars is going to be a lot more uplifting. And Jim Caldwell is the guy that, look, he's been to bad situations before. He went to Detroit, and did something similar. They didn't have a lot going on. I don't know if it was as toxic as it is over here, but it wasn't very good. So,
Well, and I don't think there's a toxic locker room. And I don't think
yeah.
any of the rest of the coaches on the staff currently are those toxic type of guys like Urban Meyer. So while Urban Meyer was incredibly toxic, I do think you have a good locker room here.
Yeah, and I agree. So I mean, when it comes to Caldwell, it's give him an interview, see where he's at, see how much more. I mean, 66 is pretty old. You know what I mean? I don't know how, but Pete Carroll, he's a pretty youthful 70-something-year-old man. There's a lot of different realms of 60-year-old people. And I haven't really seen him. I haven't seen what he looks like in a while. I haven't even seen like, a public shot of him anywhere. So I don't know how he's looking or, where his energy's at, but I have heard that he does want to come back and coach, so we'll see where that takes us. So now I want to dip into, we have a $5 donation from Devin. He says, what about Josh McDaniels for head coach? I can start with this one. Josh McDaniels, I don't know. This one, he's done a lot of good things over in New England. Obviously, like he's really good at kind of creating an offense around whatever quarterback is out there, whether it be Tom Brady, Cam Newton, and then now you're seeing what's his face, Mac Jones perform terrifically. I mean, they've built an offense that's really suited for him, and they have the number one seed in the AFC right now. He's done a lot of good things, but you want to kind of bring in a guy that you can trust. I don't know if Josh McDaniels right now is a guy that you can trust. I mean, the most recent thing that he did when it comes to leaving New England, he accepted a job at the Indianapolis Colts, let them hang in for a month and a half. And once it was time to go over there, he said, you know what, I'm good. So it's like, I don't know a lot about what to expect out of Josh McDaniels. He's a common name that comes up every coaching search. Obviously, he's well qualified to do it. And, he had a stint, 50 years ago, it feels like, with Tim Tebow over in Denver. It didn't go well, but, he's had a lot of time between now and then. He's a lot older, a lot wiser, but I don't know. With Josh McDaniels, it would sketch me out, especially you're coming from one slime ball with Urban Meyer to another guy that is a little bit fidgety. So what do you think about that?
Fidgety, I like that word. Yeah, he definitely rubbed a lot of people the wrong way in Denver. He's another guy, kind of like Jim Harbaugh, kind of very brash. I think he has grown a lot. But if I'm Josh McDaniels, why am I leaving New England where I'm probably going to be the coach in a few years anyways? I would just stick around there. You know what you've got up there. You know that Bill Belichick can't coach forever. He's in his 70s already, I believe.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I wouldn't mind interviewing McDaniels, but when you talk about a guy that needs to be well regarded by the entire building, I'm not sure McDaniels is going to be able to sustain that in a head coaching role for multiple years.
Yeah. And I agree,
And that
agree
might
with you.
be
I don't know.
okay in New England.
Yeah.
I don't
And
think it
Josh
will work here now.
Yeah. And Josh McDaniels, I think he's in a great situation over there, and I just don't know if this is the right move for him. I don't know, and I just don't trust him based off recent events. And he also comes from the dreaded New England coaching tree, where it's like I don't know, some of the guys that kind of come out under Bill Belichick. Obviously, it's more on the defensive side, because he's been offensive coordinator there for so long. But it's a different situation over there, but we'll see if he even interviews anywhere. I don't even know if he's looking for somewhere else, but we'll have to see with that.
Yeah.
Now,
And
next
what you
guy,
said about Indy, that is crazy. That would really scare me away, honestly.
yeah, Indy waited for him to be done with the Super Bowl, and
Yeah.
then like when it's like he's ready to come down, he's like, no, I'm out. Then they had to frantically, they went out and they landed on their feet, man. They got Frank Reich, and obviously
Oh,
he's
they had a home run. Yeah.
yeah, that's we look for months and can't find anybody like that. Whatever. I'm not gonna, it's a new time, new era. Shad Khan's, what doesn't kill him makes him stronger. And let's just hope that all we can do is hope, because you can't get a new owner. He's gonna be making the decision. So we'll have to see with that. So next up, we'll kind of get into it's weird because it seems like Josh McDaniels would go into the category of like a new up and comer, but he's actually in a retread category but it seems like he's like a new
a
guy
retread
now.
that failed pretty miserably, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah. And he advocated didn't he actually advocate for Tebow? Like that
Yeah.
was, yeah, that's
Pretty bizarre.
Yeah, I don't know, but hey, whatever. It happened. So next up, I do, and this is probably the most popular name right now. And he's actually the Vegas favorite to land the Jaguars head coaching job. And that is former Jaguar legend Byron Leftwich. So Leftwich is the offense coordinator over there for the Buccaneers. And I know, like, for myself, like, I mean, seems like a great coach. I mean, he's over there, he's running a really good system out there with, Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. But I think that this is the riskiest move, in my opinion, because one thing I know is that, look, Arians is a tremendous coach. I mean, he is as good as they come. And Tom Brady, I think, could come out there year one, be an elite offensive coordinator. I mean, he knows the game of football better than anybody out there, it seems like. And then with Urban with Byron Leftwich, I don't know if he's a third in command over there. You know what I mean? I don't know how much. I mean, I'm sure he has a lot of influence with the offense, but man, like when it comes to the playmakers over there and Tom Brady and Bruce Arians, and obviously that's no fault of his own. I mean, he can't help the fact that he has great people around him. I just, this isn't something that I am against, but it's definitely something that I'm a little bit scared of with him. Just the fact that this guy is kind of loaded all around him. And, I don't know if he's away from Arians and he's away from Tom Brady, and all of a sudden he's goes from like third in charge to first in charge. I don't know how he's going to do. So I'd love to hear your take on that.
Well, that's the thing with any of the young up and comers. You don't know how they're going to do. Um, you want to think that they can do a really good job, and maybe they can. Some of the best coaches in the NFL right now are guys that were young bucks coming up. When it comes to Byron Leftwich, one thing you don't want to hire him for the nostalgia factor. You don't want to hire him because he was a former first round pick by the Jaguars that everybody really likes, even though they used to make fun of him all the time. You don't want to do that for that reason. But when you just look at Leftwich, the coach, I love what he's done. He's very well regarded by all the players in Tampa. I think he did a good job as well in Arizona. I like that he comes from Bruce Arians' coaching tree. I think Bruce Arians is a very good leader, a very good offensive mind. I think that he would certainly be able to identify with and connect with these players. So for me, it would be about what is his vision for what this organization needs to look like. How is he going to handle the defensive side of the ball? And that's something we haven't really talked about with these offensive coaches. They need to have a plan for how they're going to have a good defense. Because if you're an offensive coach, you really don't need to be the guy that is CEOing it up. You need to have a defensive coordinator that you're kind of just letting them run the show on that side of the ball, in my opinion. So that's another thing I'm curious about. And again, you're not going to find that out until you get into the interview process in terms of how Byron Leftwich would envision the future of the organization. But he certainly checks off the offensive mind box. He checks off the being able to connect with people, especially these young players today. And I think he would be well liked throughout the building as well.
Yeah. And that's one thing with Byron Leftwich. I feel like you definitely know that he will be able to connect to players really well. Being a former player, being with one of the best organizations in the NFL when it comes to the Steelers, and obviously, he had some time with the Arizona Cardinals, and then now the Buccaneers, and obviously he's coming off of a Super Bowl win. But that's obviously, if the Jaguars got him, I would definitely be happy with it. And it's interesting that Vegas puts him as a favorite to land in Jacksonville. I don't know how much kind of intel that they have over that.
They do a
But
good job, man.
yeah, they do, man. They do. So that one, that one definitely will kind of keep an eye on. And one thing that's the Jaguars kind of have going for them is the fact that, now Roger Goodell this week passed something new where essentially the final 2 weeks of the season that they can actually interview guys that are, going to go to the postseason, I guess. So they get a good jump on it. It's a great year for that, just since the Jaguars are looking for a head coach, but it gives them a little bit of of a knowing before kind of the long playoff season starts. So that's gonna be pretty exciting.
Yeah, and they could even go ahead and start talking to guys like Caldwell and Peterson who are not
Yeah.
currently employed.
Yeah. So it's gonna be cool in that sense. And so next guy I want to talk about, this is might be my favorite kind of newcomer, and that is I really like Kellen Moore, the offensive coordinator from the Cowboys. Now, Kellen Moore is a guy that literally he retired from the NFL in 2017, and then in 2018 he became the Cowboys quarterbacks coach, and then 1 year later, he was announced as in 2019 announced as the offensive coordinator under Jason Garrett. Jason Garrett gets fired and he survives that, and he's still the offensive coordinator under Mike McCarthy. And he's very young. He's like 33 years old. And that might be a situation where it's like, is he too young? But this is a guy that I really feel like he is going to be in the NFL coaching for a long time. I mean, I love the offense that he's built over there. I think the Jaguars need to do something similar because, I mean, he does really good job with the running backs. I mean, Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott, for having a two-headed backfield, they both put up really good numbers. Obviously, the pass game is going really well, and got some great weapons over there, I must say. But like that offense is churning. I think he just knows a lot about the game of football, and the Rams did a really good job by kind of hopping on Sean McVay, before he, became big and became older. Than they hopped on that really quickly, and they are, really kind of getting the benefits of that. The only thing that really worries me is just the fact that he's young, and is just the fact that the Jaguars need a lot of uplifting, and it almost feels like, maybe this isn't the best place um, for a new guy to kind of come in, especially as young and wide-eyed as him. I don't know. So I guess I'll give it to you, man. What are your thoughts of Kellen Moore as a potential head coach?
Yeah, he's super green as a coach, right? Like this is his fourth year as a NFL coach or third year. Um, Sean McVay, even he was a young guy, but he had been coaching for almost 10 years when he became the Rams head coach. I think you need a guy with more experience, probably, but would I mind interviewing him? Absolutely not. I think this search should be widespread. I think you should interview as many guys as you possibly can, not only because you want to, well, not as many guys as you possibly can, but as many really well qualified guys as you can. Because not only do you want to get all these guys' opinions, let's say that whoever you do hire as a head coach doesn't work out. These guys might be the guys that are available in a year or two if the guy you hire ends up flaming out like Urban Meyer did. And so Urban Meyer, I don't think they interviewed anyone else besides Urban Meyer last year. If they did, they would know something about these guys already. But yeah, Kellen Moore, I do like the offense. I do think it's pretty easy to look good with that group of players over there. I
Yeah.
mean, it's unbelievable with the offensive line, the running backs, the receivers, Dak Prescott. Pretty crazy group over there. But I like Kellen Moore. I think he deserves an interview. Again, does he have the long term vision to be a quality head coach right now? I'm not sure. And again, we won't know.
Yeah. And that's, that one, like I said, I think the once the day comes, he's going to be a really, really good head coach. But is he too new right now? Does he have enough experience under his belt? I don't know. And obviously the Jaguars need a lot of uplifting when it comes to that. So we'll have to kind of pay attention to that. Now, the next guy I want to get into is a guy that, look, everybody's heard of Eric Bieniemy. I mean, he's every year he's a new hot kind of guy. I think this year it's starting to cool down a little bit for him. I don't know if it's just because people have mentioned him so much, and then all of a sudden, just not much. He just hasn't gotten a job, and I don't know. It's a mystery with him. I just think maybe he's not the best interviewer because a lot of times when guys get interviewed, it's one thing if they really know the game of football, but they also want to make sure that this guy is a true kind of alpha male. You know what I mean? I remember when an article back in the day that like basically the Buccaneers kind of dropped Blake Bortles from their board just because they said, I don't think this guy's an alpha male. I mean, I don't think he's, going to demand a team, and he just doesn't have that kind of personality. And I don't know if that is Bieniemy in a sense where, maybe they just don't get maybe he's a little soft spoken. Maybe they don't get the feeling that, he's a true like leader of, 53 players plus the whole entire coaching staff. Obviously he's done great things out there for, Kansas City. Obviously, much like Byron Leftwich, much like Kellen Moore, they've got a lot of talent over there. And obviously they're under a really, really good head coach. But I guess Bieniemy, I'd love to know kind of your thoughts of him, as a head coach candidate.
Yeah, it's one of those things where no one really knows how much responsibility he has for that offense. And, people talk down about the Chiefs. They're still the fourth highest scoring team in the NFL this year, despite some of these struggles or perceived struggles or struggles they had early on in the year. I think Bieniemy absolutely is a guy that's going to deserve to be interviewed. I just don't know that much about him beyond the fact that he's the offensive coordinator for Andy Reid. Who is Andy Reid really giving him that much control of the offense? He has interviewed before. Why hasn't he gotten a job? I'm not sure, but I do think he deserves an interview.
Yeah. And I don't know. I wonder, had the
Not near the
Jaguars
top of my
interviewed,
list, though, really, honestly.
like, had the Jaguars interviewed him, or have they interviewed him to kind of fill the Rooney Rule thing? I don't, because last year it's like the Jaguars, they interviewed some head coach candidates, but it was more so just, okay, let's just interview a couple guys to say we did, and then hire Urban
Right.
Meyer. I don't know. I think he might have been on that list, but I don't know. The Jaguars just went through coaching, candidates so quickly, where, they kind of got that in and out. So I don't
Yeah,
know.
they were always going to hire Urban last year.
Yeah, it really did feel like that was who they were kind of zeroing in on. But I guess, is there any other kind of head coach that you may want to kind of discuss that I haven't, talked about yet?
I mean, there's a lot of guys that people have mentioned. Joe Lombardi, the Chargers offensive coordinator, came from New Orleans. I see somebody just mentioned him again. Um,
Yeah.
Again, I don't know a ton about him as a leader. I do think Justin Herbert likes him a lot, but I'm not a big fan of his offense. Like the Saints, they kind of do a lot of dink and dunk type of stuff. They kind of try to just matriculate the ball down the field. And he's brought that over to the Chargers. When you got Justin Herbert, when you got Trevor Lawrence, as long as you've got receivers and a offensive line that can block worth a damn, most of the time, you really need to have an explosive down the field passing offense, in my opinion. I think you want a vertical attack where you have the check down as your backup.
Yeah. And honestly, I think the Chargers offense is underperforming in a way. I know it's crazy
Right.
to say, but I mean, they're not really letting like Herbert air it out. Like they went through this little stretch where like they were trying to get all cute and do this, really just get this run game going. But man, like, I mean, you have Herbert and he's a baller, and you have, Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. Like, go out there and just, that's what you do, man. Air it out, and
Well,
you got a really good receiving back.
I will say Williams and Allen aren't exactly vertical separators.
Yeah.
Williams is great uh, down the field, but he's not a separator. He's a guy that wins the contested catches, lays out for the ball, and all that. Keenan Allen is more of he's a route running demon, but he doesn't really create a ton of vertical separation. So that
Yeah.
could have an impact on that.
Yeah. So, I mean, hell, I wish we had those kind of guys on our team right now. Obviously, that's going
No
to
doubt
be,
about it. They're great receivers, don't get me wrong. But when you're
I mean,
talking about the vertical passing offense, it can be a little bit more difficult when you don't have just the uh, speed receivers, which Allen and Williams really aren't.
yeah. And another guy that's like, man, he was like a hot name, but then he got fired, and that's like Joe Brady. I wonder
Hmm.
what, like, man, he was like a big hot name, but then like all of a sudden it was like, what the heck happened?
Well, he
This
got
guy just got
scapegoated.
fired. Yeah.
He got
I
scapegoated.
mean,
Matt Rule is really struggling right now in Carolina, and
yeah.
he's doing anything he can to try to keep his job. I mean,
Yeah.
Joe Brady made Sam Darnold looked like a quality quarterback for about a month. No one's
Yeah.
ever done that.
Yeah, I mean,
So, and I'm not saying Joe Brady is a head coach, but I I think if your head coach is a fan of Joe Brady and they have him as part of their vision, I wouldn't mind that as offensive coordinator if he's interested
yeah.
in coming back, and if the head coach that you are interested in pursuing has some confidence in him.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And that's I mean, you look at what's it called? God, what was the head coach of the Carolina Panthers? Um,
Matt Rule,
I don't know what. Yeah, Matt Rule. Yeah, he just
yeah,
looks like deer in a headlight sometimes. Like he's like sweaty as hair. I mean, he's right now he's struggling a little bit, and
yeah, he's
yeah,
in it.
it's a tough situation out there. Like it's a mess. Like they're paying like 4 different quarterbacks right now. They don't have a lot of draft picks. That's a that's a tough spot over there, man. It doesn't look like they're going to be on the up anytime soon. But
They should have just
uh,
drafted Justin Fields.
yeah,
I mean,
well,
honestly,
yeah. I mean, that's a lot of that
the
was weird. I mean,
Broncos.
I think they went so in on Sam Darnold where it was like I think they traded for Sam Darnold not thinking Justin Fields would be there, and then Justin Fields was there, and it was like, okay, are we gonna like use all this draft capital? And they just wound up getting a cornerback. It's like, okay,
Got to pivot, baby.
I mean, I mean, the Broncos did the same thing. I mean, the Broncos didn't do as much, but I don't know why the
Yeah.
Broncos passed on Justin Fields. Man, I think maybe they were so like, maybe they really want an Aaron Rodgers, and maybe that
Mm,
they really think that's a possibility. I don't know, but
yeah.
it's
I, I think both of those teams could try to be in the Aaron Rodgers sweepstakes.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's you need quarterbacks these days, man, and
Yeah, I see
if you don't
people
have
bringing up
one, then
Marvin Lewis. He is a guy that probably deserves
yeah,
an interview as well. I don't think he had the I don't think he had the support in Cincinnati. That's been an ownership group that kind of doesn't put all their
wants the
eggs in
money,
the winning basket all the time.
yeah,
Uh, they don't give their coaches the best support. They have a really small scouting staff. So yeah, another guy that I think deserves an interview. But for me, he's a defensive guy. He's going to have to hire an offensive coordinator the moment you have success. Which, let's face it, if any of these guys get hired by the Jaguars and find success, it's an unmitigated, just like home run
oh my
because
gosh.
you haven't had any sustained success. But again, you're probably looking at losing your offensive coordinator if you do get success with Marvin Lewis.
Yeah, that's so hard in today's day because man, if that's one thing like the Vikings, they get in trouble with it because Mike Zimmer, he's a great coach and everything, but he has uh who was the like you have Pat Shermer, and then he
Hmm.
does a good job, he gets hired somewhere else. Then you had the Cleveland Browns head coach,
Yeah,
uh
Stefanski.
yeah, Stefanski coming there, then he gets gone, and then wasn't Gary Kubiak the OC there for a little bit, and then I don't know. They've had a bunch of different guys just come in, and they get jobs somewhere else because everybody wants the big, hot offensive guy. And I mean the same thing kind of happens with the Titans, even though the Titans have rebounded pretty well, but hey, if their offense continues to do good, their OC is going to get a look
Yep.
somewhere. Then it's just not a, especially when you have a young quarterback like Trevor Lawrence. And right now, the Jaguars are going to have a fifth offense coordinator in 5 years. That is just ridiculous.
Right. And especially for Trevor, if you have that success in year one or two of the next regime, and then the offensive coordinator gets lost, and now he's on his third coordinator in 3 or 4 years, that's not how you want to start off the career.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely not. But yeah, like when it comes to just bringing in a new guy, like Shaw just, I mean, I think with Urban Meyer, he was so blinders on it where he was like, this is who I want. I don't think he asked around a lot because, like, if you really dug into Urban Meyer, I know with us too, it's harder because we don't have those connections. We can't just, call whoever we want. But you know what I mean? Like if he went out there and just reached out to former players, and I'm not talking go to Tim Tebow. I'm not talking go to Ezekiel Elliott. Go to like the mid-tier guys and ask them
Hmm.
about Urban Meyer. You could have gone to your own team. Ask Andrew Norwell. Ask Lernton McCray, about Urban
Yeah.
Meyer. And they could have told him that look, this guy is, a douche. I mean, there was a former Gator player. I forget who it was, but he put on Twitter. Apparently, like, you know, Urban would throw water bottles or like
Hmm.
Gatorade bottles at them and stuff like that. Like, it wasn't hard to find, but he just didn't look
Right.
into it.
But there's a lot of people that also would have gone to bat to him or gone to
Yeah.
bat for him. No one in this organization, but there were people, and there still people are that are outside of the organization that stick up for him. It's not a huge list, and it's certainly shrinking as these crazy things come out about him. But yeah, it was not hard to find negative uh, detractors and comments about Urban Meyer. It wasn't hard to find. Shad Khan was sold on him, no
Yeah.
matter what.
Yeah. So they just, I mean, just had to do a better job this time. I don't know. I just, it's hard, man, because I don't know what kind of pointers to give to Shad Khan because he's gone all different directions when it comes to the head coach. And, this one right here, I mean, he got duped because
Well,
this one was
yeah,
bad.
I do think he's not going to go for the long term rebuild. He's already established that. He learned from Gus Bradley and Dave Caldwell about that. So that's something you can cross off your list. Um, I don't think you're going to get a college guy for
Nope.
obvious reasons. uh, and I'd honestly kind of be surprised if you do get a young up and comer. I think he's going to want someone established, kind of. Urban Meyer had no previous NFL coaching experience. I think he's going to want someone that has a lot of experience. And I could be wrong. Maybe Byron Leftwich is going to be the top guy, and I think he will get interviewed. I think he will be a hot name for it. But uh, like I said, you have to find someone that's an offensive guy, in my mind, and a guy that is genuine, a real person. How do you find that? You have to do the extensive background. He has to sell you really well in the interview process, and he has to have that vision. He has to communicate that vision and show that vision to you. And if you can get all of that stuff lined up, I think you got a shot, especially with Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing. I mean, you really feel like he's going to. I mean, it makes so much more sense to get for him to bring in a guy like it just seems like it lines up where Doug Peterson would be a guy that he'd really like. It
Yeah,
throws me off with these Vegas odds, like because Vegas knows a lot of stuff, and the fact that the two leading candidates are, Byron Leftwich and Kellen Moore. Like I don't know how much they know, but there's a lot of stuff that Shad Khan needs to do, like outside of just bringing in a better, bringing in a head coach. Like there's some serious stuff going on in that building. Like, the whole legal department, I guess, what happened with, Josh Lambo reporting to the legal
yeah,
department. They didn't do anything about it. I mean, that's a separate entity, I think, from Urban Meyer. And then obviously, a couple years ago, you had all the stuff with, Tom Coughlin, where that was a whole different issue where, there were just guys getting fined and, filing grievances all over the place. And now with Urban Meyer just doing anything and everything he wanted, just walking around being a bully. Like there's some stuff that you had to clean up in here. It's bad. And that's, Shad Khan, I mean, seems like to me like he's a pretty good man, but that's not good.
well, he's a good businessman,
Yeah.
and winning games is good for business. So I do think he's going to do everything he can in that regard to clean stuff up, at least from a PR perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have Dan loves Jags with a $5 donation. He says, "What about Wink Martindale from the Ravens?"
Yeah, I
You know
mean
anything?
he's Joe Cullen's former coordinator, and Joe Cullen was his defensive line coach. Um, Yeah, I like Wink Martindale a lot. Like he's a good personality, runs an awesome defense, but it's another defensive coach, which I'm not going to be a huge fan of. Um, he might be worth an interview, but uh, like I said, I'm going to have a really hard time not hiring an offensive mind.
Yeah, you don't. It doesn't feel like that's gonna be the guy. I don't even know if he's gonna get an interview. If I'm being honest, I don't. I just don't. With the direction of the Jaguars, you don't feel like this is gonna be the direction. But
You might as well just
um,
interview Joe Cullen
yeah, I mean, might as
for the
well.
job.
And And I'm hoping, hey, I'm hoping we bring in an offensive guy and Joe Cullen will kind of stay because, you need, we always talk about, kind of stability. I mean, Joe Cullen, I think's done a heck of a job in here with what he's has. I mean,
I
he's the
agree.
guy he's the only guy that's adjusting to anything. I mean, we come out there, we're not getting pressure on the quarterback. Second half, he comes out with these different blitz packages, and he's been really good. And Jaguars lose 20-0 last week, and the defense was actually playing good. It's just, with the way the offense was playing, it was awful. Like,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, and again, it would kind of look like another half measure if you keep Joe Cullen around, but I think that needs to be up to whoever you hire as head coach. If they like
yeah,
Joe Cullen and they want to keep him around, that's fine, but you can't be like pushing your current defensive coordinator on a new head coach.
yeah. Well, absolutely, man. It's a good time right now because I know, last Monday and Tuesday, I'm sitting here, I'm like, man, like, we had the Texans coming up, like. I don't want to go into 2020 tank mode, but I was like, I'm not even tanking for a draft pick. I'm just like, I don't want to give Shad Khan any reason to keep Urban
Hmm.
Meyer around. And now that he's gone, it's like, I'm really excited for this Texans game. I really want to win it. I haven't beaten the Texans since 2017. We have to start beating our division opponents. We've just been a punching bag going like 1-5 in the division every year. It's just been terrible. So
Yeah.
good opportunity for us. Then we have the Jets the following week, and both these teams have, they're struggling just like us. Obviously, I think maybe we've been struggling the most the last few weeks, but hell, we win it on Monday. We were favored against the Texans by 3 points with Urban Meyer, so
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah. I think the
weird,
line's moving towards the Jaguars.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, I think the Jaguars come out there Sunday, and I think they play inspired. I really do think they get the win on Sunday.
Yeah. Historically, I think teams over the last whatever years, they have a pretty good record, especially for teams that just fired their coach. There's a reason they fired their coach, it's because they're not doing well. I think those teams are close to 500 after the game after firing that coach over the last 10 years or something like that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's true. We did like Mel Tucker, Doug Marone did good. I think Doug Marone what
One and
one
one.
and two or 2-2, 1-1. Yeah,
Yeah,
he
I think
came out
so.
there to beat the Titans at home. Man, what I wouldn't give to beat the Titans again. Hopefully,
One
hopefully
day.
up in upcoming future. But yeah, man, we've been going on for over an hour. Still 176 people in here. So, hey, guys, thank you everybody who kind of tuned in here for this live stream. Like I said earlier, I'm here with Jordan DeLugo. All of his links are down below. Give him a follow on Twitter. He'll keep you updated with everything going on. He also writes all the articles and does different podcasts on genjag.com. So give all those a follow down below. So what's some of the coverage we can kind of be expecting from you coming up?
Yeah, I'll put together we talked a lot about it, but I'll put together a list of coaches that I think fall into the criteria that I kind of outlined earlier in the show, and I'll put forth that criteria again for what I'm looking for, and so I'll do that in the next couple days, probably tomorrow if I have time. I'll also do a game preview, which I wasn't looking forward to at all uh, heading
Yeah,
into week 15, but I'm a little bit more excited about writing it now. I'm not going to lie to you. But yeah, I'll
yeah,
do that tomorrow. Um, Other than that, I'll just be, you know, tweeting through it all weekend
yeah.
probably.
Absolutely, man. Love Twitter, man. Twitter's ramping up, and we got a coaching search, man. This is obviously it's not ideal to be going through back to back coaching searches, but it is always a fun time, and there's some nice candidates out there, and I'm pretty excited for it. But all right, Jordan, thanks so much for kind of joining me today. Thanks everybody for being here, showing up on from 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock. Spending your Thursday night with us. We really appreciate it. And with all that said, go Jags, and we'll catch you guys next time.